Uh, it is a pleasure one more evening, and I welcome all of you, all the delegates and the participants. Today we gather again for one more very important subject which we have discussed, and we have got a lot of queries in the past from our members regarding that how to overcome this candidate dropouts. And I'm really thankful to the subject matter experts and our speakers. Those who have shown their consent and sharing their experience and all of the industry stalwarts which we have right now. So coming to the subject panelists, we have Mr. Mehul Shah. He is our session chair for today's session, and he is a board member and chair IT chapter in the Staffing Federation and managing director of Collaborative Technologies. Secondly, we have Mr. Shivnath Ghosh. He is a member of ISF and country director and senior VP of Arctic Infosystems Private Limited. We thank again for this sparing his time for the session. Then we have Mr. Suresh Narayan. He is the founder director of Teamware Solutions. And we have Mr. Samir Pinakalapati, founder and CEO of Mr. PayPal Corp. We thank all our senior jury members and panelists to spare the time and share their valuable insights for the session. So without taking much time, I hand over the baton to our session chair, Mr. Mehul. Sir, it's up to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Saurav. Welcome all of you. Welcome my competent colleagues, Suresh, Shiv, and Samir. Welcome all of you audience. We are all back. Last time we met and we had discussed that, we will come up with a more interesting topic for the next webinar. If you remember the last webinar, we had a very interesting topic that time in terms which was different business models. While we just, that those business models sunk in, all of us, I'm sure, would have realized that business is already up. Whether, whatever business models you are in, the business is going up. And I'm sure all the IT staffing companies, like all of us, we saw everything going up. We saw the requirements going up. We saw our team sizes going up. We saw our number of hires that we do going up. We saw our headcount going up. We also saw our profitability going up. Most of us saw our bottom line going up. Everything went up in the last few months, in the last couple of quarters, right? So we are all thankful in a way, the way things have panned out, post-pandemic or during this entire period. But at the same time, something else also went way too up, right? Which none of us want, and that is, the candidate no-show, the dropouts, that also went skyrocketing up. And that is a burning issue, in my opinion. I speak to many of you on and off. All of us are facing this. Not a single company has been spared where they don't have this problem of, candidate taking your offers, you committing to the customer saying fantastic, and then you go back to the customer cutting a sorry face because the candidate is not in your control anymore. So that's a burning issue, and there may not be a straight cut answer to everything, to this particular problem, but definitely there could be some ways to brainstorm. There could be some ways to overcome these challenges, and for that we have our competent ISF members with us, who are running larger organizations and have actually managed to address this issue better than many of us. So our first speaker for the day, and again, once we do the brainstorming with our speakers today, I request all of you, most of you, any of you, if you have any questions, shoot those questions. I don't take the guarantee whether we have a direct answer or not, but the questions are more or less to the panelists. So it is Shiv, Suresh, and Samir's problem to handle. But please shoot your questions. Whatever questions you are facing, whatever troubles you are facing, and let us see if we can come up to some sort of a brainstorming or some particular answer to address to this problem. So having said that, I would welcome our first speaker for the day, Suresh Narayanan from Teamware Solutions. Suresh, all yours.
Thank you, Mehul. And thank you, ISF, for inviting me to speak on this webinar. Actually, Mehul, when Suchita first spoke to me about speaking on this topic, I was actually a little amused because quite honestly, we as a company spend a considerable amount of time teaching our recruiters, training our recruiters to go after and search for people who are in between jobs and who are serving their notice period. And the moment they identify them, we also train them as to how to go and give a counter offer. So on the one hand, I see myself as institutionalizing the process of actually creating this problem of no-shows by actually giving counter offers to candidates. And here I am trying to speak and probably suggest ways that how do we solve the problem that we ourselves are creating in the first place. So that being said, I guess the issue that we're facing is at a very basic level is that over demand and supply situation. Today, everybody seems to be on the digitization wagon, and the number of requirements are absolutely leaving us to a situation where there are far too many jobs looking at a far too few number of people who have those skill sets. The scale, it's not as if this problem is new. I've faced this problem during the mainframe days at the beginning of the century. We had no-shows with specific certain skills of in the mainframe umbrella. But what I see different is the scale at which this is happening. What was initially a 20% kind of an acceptable no-show, today the norm has become as high as 50%, sometimes even worse than that. And secondly, also, I think the number of the kind of skills that are being asked is more of a combination kind of a skills. It's not one particular skill, which narrows down the supply chain even further. And then when you throw in domain expertise and all of that, we have a really squeezed in supply chain, which is probably resulting in the situation that we are in today. The basic approach in solving this problem is how do we increase the supply, and supply at some point in time will have to increase so that there is equilibrium that is established. Supply, and the only way that supply can be increased is to upskill the current lot of people who have. But as Mehul was mentioning, I think that's a topic for another day. And I think that's a pretty wide topic to talk about. And the topic that we have today is that how do we operationally try to manage the situation that we're currently facing. So let me cut to the chase. I will start with a caveat. I really don't have a magic wand solution. We are confronting this issue. We have not managed to solve it, eliminate the problem. So what I'm going to do is only share with you some of the things that we have done to live with this problem and try to live a little better than what we can. Okay, so I'm going to share my experiences. I'm pretty sure that most of it would be something that all of us are, actually doing. The first thing that we tried to do when we saw these no-shows going beyond acceptable levels was that we tried to minimize or sort of simplify the problem. Rather than looking at it as a 50% no-show kind of a situation, the first thing we did was to break it into smaller levels of problem. So therefore we said, okay, what is the customer-wise no-show that we are seeing? Are we seeing a difference in the no-shows that are happening across customers? And then we said, okay, within customers, what are the technology buckets or the slots that we see? Where is the no-show happening? In which technology bucket is it happening more? So we had a grid which said customers on one side and the skills on the other. And in that grid, we sort of did a RYG. Where is it that the no-shows are red, which is far more than what is acceptable? Where is it is yellow, where it is within the norms that is okay? And where is it that we're doing pretty all right, where it's totally under control? And then we add another layer to it in terms of the volume of traffic that goes into each of these segments. And we were quite pleasantly surprised that the problem was not as bad as what we thought initially when we confronted the 50% no-show syndrome. It was only in pockets that we were seeing very many reds, especially the high volume reds that we looked at, which was bringing the score to the overall score to a much worse number. So it did not solve the problem for us, but at least it sensitized us to know that we are looking at a problem which could turn bad for us unless we manage it quite well. So that was the first thing that we did. Now, the second internal thing that we did was I tell my teams that, look, don't worry about the outcome, but worry about the predictability of the outcome. Now, why I say this is we can go talk about the branding of our company. We can talk about our customers' brand. We can talk about the projects, growth. All of that is fine. But when the candidate is confronted with an offer which is 20 or 30% higher than what you have made, that's a pretty juicy carrot for him to say no to. And therefore, all of this would go in as the second priority as compared to that hike in offer that he is getting. So we focused more on the predictability of what the candidate is going through. And we dealt with it in that danger zone, as what we call it internally, which is the time from where the candidate signs the offer letter as an acceptance and the date where he is supposed to be onboarded. Now, this could range between 15 days, sometimes even lower, or it could go as high as 60 days. And the more the time for him to join, the larger is the number of offers that he is bombarded with. Some of them from people who are in this forum itself. So we looked at how do we predict, and therefore the prediction can happen only if there is a very intensive interaction, which is very consistent across this danger zone period. So depending on where we are seeing the high volume reds as compared to the low volume green, the high volume greens, we sort of calibrated the intensity with which we are going to be interacting with the candidate. This has helped us in many occasions, if not, be able to save that guy from joining another company, but at least in being able to predict that this guy is a potential no-show and therefore we must look for a backup. So that helped in a lot of ways, where we were able to go back to the client and say, hey, you know what, we're going to have a problem here, and therefore we need to be having a backup. So let's start the the selection process again. That sort of helped, and we also tried to bring in layers of within our structure, so that it is not the same recruiter who is interacting with the candidate. It is people at different levels who are interacting with the candidates. We deliberately put in processes, documentation checks that has to be made, and all of that into that process, so that there is at every point in time, there is another person also talking to him, and yet another person talking to him, so that there is a combined level of judgment that is happening as to what is going to happen to the candidate. I believe this prediction is something that will not eliminate the issue, but at least give us some kind of comfort in terms of where we are heading. This is another thing that has worked for us and has helped us manage the situation a lot better than what we would have done otherwise. This is as far as the internal things that we are doing. Also, I think the client has to be involved with a lot of intensity and at every stage during this process, and that becomes also important in managing this syndrome. The first thing we do, and we are doing this in a very active way, is to sensitize the client and tell him that, look, we are heading for a problem. This is not what is the market. It was prevalent 6 months back or even a quarter back. Thankfully, this topic is being discussed in many forums today. We have the mainstream media talking about it. We have social media talking about it. So most of the clients, the owners of the mandate owners are aware that there is this problem, and therefore are able to empathetically listen to what we are saying. However, there are these clients who think that as staffing partners, we must have that magic wand, whether it doesn't care where we get it from, and somehow sort this problem out and have a zero no-show kind of issue. So I think it's important to sensitize the client in terms of what is in store. The second thing is, you can talk about all the branding, all that is fine. But in a demand supply where the supply is sort of shrunk, the first thing that gets impacted is price. Now, whether you're talking about a commodity market, art, or be it staffing, pricing takes a big hit. And as I was saying before, that when there is a counter offer and you're not able to match it because you have a price constraint, it becomes a problem to manage that no-show. Now, predominantly in our staffing business, there are two pricing models that we have from our clients. One is a cost plus kind of a thing, where there is a markup over and above the CDC of the candidate. And the second is, of course, a fixed price kind of a contract, where it could be either a hourly billing or a daily billing or a monthly billing cycle. Now, when it comes to cost plus, we don't face challenges, of course. In fact, in many cases, it becomes a benefit to us. We make a little more money than what we normally could because of a hike in salaries that the market is expecting. But in fixed price contracts, we do have a challenge. And typically, when you talk of high volume customers, the customer has this expectation that you should take a hit on your margins to manage some of the mandates which are thrown where there is a huge demand in the market. Typical reactions from customers is that, why are you coming with this demand? There are other vendor partners who are not coming with this demand. So you should be able to manage it at the same price. We are very, very sensitive to this, of whether we have the right price to be able to at least go to the market. I believe that beyond a point, there is no use in actually hurting our margins, because at the end of the day, we tell our client that it actually disables us from servicing you to the levels that you expect. So there is a certain point at which our margins need to be protected. But even beyond that, the price matrix, which is probably fixed about a year ago or maybe even 2 years ago, are no more relevant today to the requirements of the market and what those skills command as a premium. So we try our own tactics to be able to go back to the client, try to reslot the skill into a higher band, price band category. But I think this is something that we should be sensitive to. We simply politely refuse to take up mandates which we know that we are not going to be able to match in terms of a salary offering to the candidate. So these are some of the things that we do. As I said in the beginning, I really don't think that I've said anything new here, but these are things that we have sort of implemented on the floor and see if we can control the situation a little better, make it a lot more predictable than what it would be otherwise, and then try to bring it down to more acceptable levels. So I'm hoping that in the brainstorming session that is going to follow, and from the other speakers who are going to speak, that I would get some kind of a magic wand solution that I was speaking about. And with that, I want to end. Thank you for the opportunity, and over to you. Back to you, Mahal.
Thank you, Suresh. It is quite frankly, I want to admit, I learned one thing. Probably, I will summarize it later, but I definitely learned one thing for my team from what you said. We'll talk about it a little later, but let us hear from Shivnath Ghosh from Artec. They have done something very well. Whatever I know from Shiv, whatever we have been talking since a few days, I think it's quite impressive. But as Suresh said, nobody has the magic wand. However, definitely these things can be done better and handled better, and I'm sure it will benefit us when we hear it from Shiv as well. Shiv, can you please help us?
Thanks, Mehul. I think good evening to everybody. Suresh has covered quite a lot of it. And of course, whatever I'm going to say would be in addition, or it will be supplementing that. But this is in reality a very, very important, pertinent issue in the current market scenario. And no company, big or small, is untouched by it. It's important because the stakes are very high. Why I say that? Because it's the credibility of the organization which is directly getting affected because of the no-shows in front of the customers. And it affects internally also in terms of the ROI. So the stakes are very high for us, at least whatever we see from our organization, to control this and bring it to a level where it is manageable. And that's why we put a lot of focus on this. So from my perspective, the no-shows are of two types. One is interview no-show and one is a joining no-show. What affects our company more is the joining no-show. And I believe, as the staffing partners who are here, that is the more critical aspects of the two types of no-shows. There are many reasons to this, right? And I'm sure everybody of you are aware of that. But just to give you a perspective, I would like to broad base this and categorize into 4 different categories. Why I'm doing it is because then it becomes easy to address the issue depending on which category we are targeting and what specific actions that can be undertaken under each category. The first one is, of course, we see is the high demands in the IT niche skills area specifically today. I mean, this is like at a different level altogether. What is happening? Every candidate is having multiple offers, high CTC. They have a plethora of choices to look from. And then second is keeping in true with our Indian tradition culture. Preference of permanent over contractual is still very much prevalent. Even 1 hour before joining, if a candidate gets a permanent offer, he rejects the contractual and goes for a permanent offer. The second critical point is health issues. We all know that is something which is true. COVID or any other for the candidate or for his or her family members is a real burning issue. And that's another very, very important aspect of this no-show. Third aspect that we see is a high availability of time between the offer letter issue and the BGV process completion from the customer till the onboarding. What happens is that this time for them is a golden time period. They will take your offer letter, they will go and negotiate with 5 more people, get the best offer, and then keep on negotiating till the last date of the joining, and there will be a no-show. And last but not the least, retained by the current company. I mean, we all do that. When one of our guys resign, we will try every possible way to keep that person back. So these are the 4 pertinent buckets that we see as issues. There are a few more also, but I think overall 90-95% will be covered by these 4. So what have we done? Obviously, there is no magic formula. There is no 100% guaranteed success result. But there are many actions that we are taking and take internally and externally. Some are common across the customer set and some are more customer specific. The solutions are a combination of technology and human interventions. Some of them have delivered success and some of them we keep on modifying depending on what has not been successful. Let me give you some few examples. Let me touch on the human level first. The very first thing which is important when we embark is to analyze the customer when the first level interview is being done. The candidate experience and expectation. And there is a process to be followed and a lot of things can be understood from there. Let me give you a little bit detail on this. One of the cardinal mistakes that our recruiters do is that they interview a permanent candidate for a C2H role. More often than not, 90% of these cases, you will see that to be a no-show. So can we do a better process of qualifying, which is very, very important? Do we have those questionnaires? Do we have that understanding where a recruiter can very well identify that this guy is not a potential candidate that I am looking forward? He's just fishing in the market. Has the person been job hopping previously? Does the CV tell us something? And if there is a person who we see that has a clear history and background of that, that person probably may not be the ideal candidate. He is a risk. What is important to him is the brand of the company that he or she is going to be associated with as a temp role or a permanent role from day one rather than waiting for 3 months to be converted. Say if I tell him that, okay, you are going to go to IBM and you are going to get converted in 3 months, will that be acceptable to him rather than getting a permanent offer from an XYZ company from day one? So evaluations, and we follow that. We have developed a process where we train our people to understand and ask these questions so that the first level qualification is very high. So you eliminate that risk to the best possible extent from day one. Take all the confirmations from the candidates in written. You need to take the resignation mail, resignation acceptance mail, last working day confirmation mail, everything. What are we trying to do? We are trying to eliminate the verbal assurances. There are many times guys will give verbal assurances, and if they are not backed up by a written assurance, the risk is higher. How do we evaluate the recruiters further? Through a senior level evaluation. So the delivery managers or somebody who are specialized in this aspect keep on doing mock calls. at various levels to find out the candidate's movement over a period of time between the selection and the onboarding. You will be able to get a early warning system very clearly through these regular connects, where you will be able to find out if there's a risk. Do we need to take a call on putting a backup candidate? A lot of things can be done. So the trick is to keep them engaged from selection date till joining. You will not be able to still eliminate 100%, but a lot of things can get very easily smoothened out if you are in contact with the customer and the candidate regularly. We sometimes make even the customer talk to the candidate. One of the issues that we have seen, many candidates, if they are not kept in touch, just lose interest. They get jittery. They feel that, oh, what is going to happen to me? So whatever comes to me upfront, let me put that. And then Suresh talked about the margin. That is very, very key, because you see, we have candidates who negotiate with us even 15 minutes before joining and tell that I have got a higher CTC, and if you do not give me, I'm not going to join. So have you provided enough margin at the initiation of the negotiation with the customer, where even if you have to give a higher CTC to this guy at the end, you still are not negative and you are within your business parameters? So a couple of things, there are many more things that we do, but I thought a couple of things which can be applied to everybody and which has yielded as results. These are from the human perspective. On a technology level, okay, if these candidates are still updating their CVs regularly on the job portals and the others, even after getting a selection letter from you, that means there is an issue. So you need to keep a tab on the movement of these guys, and you will be able to identify very clearly if there are early warning systems, there are challenges, do we need to do something else? And hence, then keep backup profile ready. I mean, I'm sure everybody has a database situation where you know which candidate to approach in case of an issue, what technology level, etc., etc., etc. These are some of the top level things on our technology. We have other, obviously, different ways of we keep our databases, availability, etc. Then from an overall organization perspective, in today's scenario, what is more important to any resource is a medical benefit. To be assured that I am covered, my family members are covered. In case of any mishap to me or my family members, things will be taken care of. So better medical, better insurance benefits, something which provided to the resources, they take that very, very positive. And then, of course, treating them at par with all FTs rather than making them feel a contractual employee. Can you look at them as an employee of the organization? They get that feeling that, yes, I'm joining an organization where I'm treated at par and I am not somebody who will be expensed when the contract will just get over. And then, obviously, apart from that, how to engage the customer on a regularity where the customer is partnering you so that they are in touch with the resources, they are providing that additional comfort to the resources, and together it is my company and the customer giving a single face to the resource and giving them all the possible comfort that they are joining two good organizations, which is Artec and as well as the end customer organization. We do a lot of other things also, which we try to do. Control immediate no-show after joining. The first 15 days are also very vulnerable, where there are meet and greet, where there are regular interaction sessions with SPOCs, with customers, with resources, so that overall you give them that atmosphere which will make them stay. They will believe in togetherness and they will feel that it's a place for them to stay longer. So these are some of the things that we do. Obviously, the topic is very broad. I can get into details of each and every point that we talked about, but from a top level, this is what I wanted to share. I hope you find it useful. Thank you.
Very good, Shiv. In fact, you covered almost everything that one could think of. You covered operational points as well. I'm sure whatever you said in terms of, operational, the clients, the processes, the skills, the database, I think this is going to be useful. I'm sure it is useful for all the recruiters around, managers, the management. Definitely, this is a day-to-day activity that we should do. At the same time, some of the strategic points mentioned as well. I'll keep all the talking for the later part with all the questions from everybody. Let us hear it. What kind of a technology and what kind of a role technology can play, and how can we address this using the technology as well, apart from our internal processes and some sort of a strategic changes. So please welcome Samir from CPAL. He is the founder of CPAL. And Samir, if you can guide us in terms of what role technology can play to address this burning issue that all of us have.
Yeah, thank you, Mehul. As I said, between Shiv and Suresh, they've covered a lot of operation side, and I'll focus on the technology perspective. What we have seen across 2,000 plus staffing firms that CPAL supports as their recruiting automation platform. Few things, right? Like in just piggybacking on Shiv's and Suresh comments. Let's say, for an example, how do you find the early signs of a problem like candidate dropout problem, right? So what we have seen with the customers building, using their automation platform, and also using these intelligent filters to identify some of the signals. For an example, right? If a candidate has a full-time working and then going after the contract, so that's another point. And then geography and the location, like from the city to city, like in somebody's the location is Hyderabad, and then this job is in Bangalore, or within the Bangalore, the distance of their location, it's a factor. And I think the benefit side of it is in healthcare, it's a fully paid, half paid. So if we have these filters into it, like, check boxes, what they have and what the customer has it. And then we will also look into the skills match, right? A lot of times when we look into have this primary and the secondary skills, so when you map those primary and secondary skills into the filters, when you do if you have a candidate database, and then when we search for a specific candidates, but you adopt some of these filters and then find an appropriate list of like top 5, top 10 list of candidates, I think that would help to really close look into who would be the best match, not just the match, but also other factors into it. But I want to bring it up. The point is, like, from the time that recruiter get assigned a specific job and look for candidates, if you have a platform that helps you to have a good search engine filters that they can able to bring in, all they had to do is find, have these filters, pre-designed, and look for a candidate. So you're really not spending a lot of time on actually searching candidates without having in automation platforms. But you have this list of candidates maybe within the first half hour, and then you actually have more time to spend with the candidates, talking through some of these points, understanding their needs, and also be a first caller. Like generally, if somebody is supporting for IBM has 10, 20 suppliers working on same set of requirements. And then if you don't have a strong database to build on your own, most of them looking into the paid job portals, like, in India, especially the Naukri, Career Build, and all these things, and somebody else already contacted them. So when the candidates knows that, okay, it's the same job, but I have 2, 3 different suppliers working into, now we're looking at 2, 3 different offers for the same type of role. So I think if we spend less time on searching candidates, but I think you have these automation platforms and some of these filters that actually have a close match to what candidate looking for, but spend more time on building the relationship with the candidates, understanding their needs, And then I think, that would take a lot of time to build a trust with the candidates. Another thing that I also have seen, the recruiters generally, read out the job description to the candidates, but can the recruiters spend a little bit more time understanding the job from the client? And in terms of even the project, what kind of projects? A lot of people are not just only look for money, but also look for type of projects that they want to get into it, right? Yeah, and we have seen that, I don't like the technology, I don't like this project, it's maintenance project, this, that. But if the recruiter spends time with the customer, a project manager, a program manager, but and take that information, talk to the candidates more diligently, because you're not spending a lot of time on the technology platform. Technology platform gives you that some of these insights to you, so you spend more time understanding and mapping the candidates' needs versus what job provides. I think that the recruiters spends engaging with the candidate will tremendously go up, and then build the trust and relationship with the candidate, and that would take a long way. Nobody can stop them soliciting various job offers. That's something recruiter has no control on it, and it might not even know what they're looking into, and might find they're updating their resumes and portals and stuff, but we don't know. We can't give it the full picture. But I think the technology can give all these insights to the candidate about their primary skills, about their preferences, about the geographic location, about their other benefits mapping, and everything you do it. But you spend more time with the candidate. I think that would take a really long way. End of the day, it's a human interaction. You have more time interacting with the candidates, and that would build the trust and relationship, would tremendously reduce the dropouts, if not eliminate completely. It's a process, and that's a one. Number two is, and with just-in-time recruitment, like a lot of recruiters and the companies do it, but it is important, can the technology gives you insights. Let's say a company is working for XYZ client for last 4 or 5 years. And if you see the trend of last 4 or 5 years, what type of job roles the customer hires and what time frames they hires, you give some predictive analytics looking into, okay, we hired a business analyst for a specific industry for last year of 50 jobs. We see it coming through our system from this customer, and we were able to place 5 of them. And you want to do better with them. So you build a pipeline of candidates in the specific role and talk to those candidates, build a relationship when the job comes in and they are there with it. May not be everyone available for that, but at least you have a fairly good chance of being talking about it, being through it. I think the building a strong pipeline of candidates also helps, building those relationships and just making it, having the candidate ready when the job comes out. I think those are the 2 things. Build a strong pipeline of candidates. So that means you use the platform to curate the candidates, use the platform to, and basically, a lot of times the companies do have credits from this job portals, and they quite often don't use all the credits. So why don't we have a platform that helps you to build those pipeline and fully utilize all the credits, so that you don't let go waste of money for the credits that already bought in. So those are the kind of things that have a pre-set of database that be prepared. And then when you have all these filters that through the system can help them to curate, and end of the day, really, by the time the job comes in, you have all these database and all the filters, and the system is ready. And also, the hiring history of a customer for the last 6 months to 1 year, like last 2 years, that would be a tremendous help to actually just to stay a little bit ahead of other competition out in the market. I think those are things that I've seen customers tremendously benefited using and exploring the technology platforms. The last piece that I also want to say, we're dealing with a lot of millennials now, and even the new generations, Generation Z. A lot of times then, we have 3 communications, right? Email, phone call, and text messaging. I have seen tremendous response for text recruitment platforms, right? If your automation platform integrated with your texting features, even a WhatsApp, not in a WhatsApp, but actually integrated with the platform. What happens is whatever the communication that goes with the candidates actually stays in the system. He knows about the candidates in the past. If you have interacted, somebody else interacted, you have a system of record of the communication. And that, I think that's a tremendous insight about the candidate. And the candidate, somebody hasn't joined today doesn't mean the candidate is a waste, because you may have a different scenario, but you have that information stored in the database, and you miss that important information about the candidate. And every candidate is a potential prospect for the future one. So but if you have the technology that integrated with your texting, with WhatsApp and other third-party platforms, I think will be tremendous help. We have seen if the platform get integrated with texting, a lot of times recruiters use their phones to text the candidates and get all the information, but we won't see that information in our platform. We miss and lose a lot of data insights about a specific candidate. In fact, when you search about the candidate, some of these filters can be applied based on what the text messaging happened between the candidates. So I think, if you are a tech savvy, you apply some of these, tools, it will be tremendously benefits. Again, we may not eliminate the problem, but definitely bring down the number of drops of the candidates. And the technology is just there to help as a tool, another tool to solve this very problem.
Great. Excellent, Samir. Very, very good insights and about the AI automation and the tools. I think, folks, it's imperative, in today's world, in today's age, that we get done with the conventional methods alone. Of course, the human touch is very important, but at the same time, let's start using these automation tools and the automation platforms to really understand the trend of the client, what Samir mentioned, understand what was lacking in that candidate. It's okay if he's not joined, but still put it in your database so that, it can be helpful for you. So I think it's imperative for all of us to adapt to these platforms and the tools that can really help us. So great insight from a technology as well, Samir. It really was very, very helpful. I'm sure it has made a lot of sense to a lot of people on this webinar. So before we really summarize, I think let's open to everybody. I'm sure this is one issue that all of us are facing in our industry day in, day out, probably multiple times in a day on an individual basis. So if you have any questions, please feel free and unmute yourself, come on a video, without a video as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask any questions to any of the panelists, please. I open to everybody. Please ask your questions.
Yeah, Mr. Mehul, Anirudh this side from Genius Consultants.
Hi, Anirudh. Hi.
Yeah, great to connect with you again. I have a question, or rather a query, and sort of a suggestion also, particularly to ISF being the body which is representing we the recruiters or the staffing organizations, not only to various organizations, but also to government bodies. A lot of activity ISF is doing, which I really appreciate. But I think this problem of dropout management is something which is we all contribute to some or the other way. So I feel as a business manager that first of all, we should educate all our recruiters that they should also abstain like reoffering or issuing new job offers to candidates who have already got something in their hand. So they will always try to fetch new opportunities or renegotiate new offers. So we as a recruiter, if we as managers, if we abstain our team members to do that, even if we can stop one candidate from taking a counter offer, I think that is some activity collectively. If we do that and promote that as an industry body, I think that can be one step. We should also educate our clients. I have some examples in front of me in social media also. I think someone referred. There was this mail which was getting circulated, a candidate with around 2.5 years of experience getting 4.5 lakhs. Currently, after 2-3 offer shopping, was offered the last salary to be 15 lakhs, and after that also the candidate dropped out after serving 60 days of notice. Now, if someone is a worth of 4.5 lakhs, maybe 3 months back, and suddenly you're offering him 15 lakhs, so there lies some problem. If there is a severe dearth of actual talent, then I think there should be a hire, train, and deploy model, which we should promote as industry body, and the client should also start accepting it. Then we can actually bring a sort of a parity into the industry. Otherwise, like the other day, our respected MD sir was also saying, it is just like the Y2K bubble, it is going to burst. So we should educate the candidates, the clients, that we should not spoil the market. Otherwise, we are creating more trouble for ourselves in the near future. So that is something which I view. So what ISF can do or promote it to the government body as to the clients as well equally is something which I sought. And your comments on it.
Sure, Anirudh, good point. Obviously, this is all a pretty much pressure game, need basis. We got to wow our customer, and probably that pressure may be working on everybody. But let me ask this to Suresh, because Suresh, you rightly put it up, what Anirudh is saying. We are the party to this crime where we actually poach a candidate from somewhere, giving him higher salaries, and then now we are trying to address the same problem which we have created for ourselves. Suresh, any thoughts on that, what Anirudh is saying? Suresh?
Mehul, I think I lost you. Maybe something wrong with the connection. Could you?
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I'm saying, Suresh, you brought in a point to what Anirudh is saying. In the beginning, you said, we are the party to this crime where we created a problem by giving higher salaries. And now we actually, brought this problem home for ourselves.
Well, to Anirudh, my response is, I wish that we lived in such times where, where we don't have to do what we're doing, which is to make. Okay, to Anirudh, my first submission is, I wish that we were living in utopia where this situation exists, where we don't have to make counter offers. But Anirudh, I spent 2 decades and more in this industry, and the critical thing that clients expect from us is a quick joining. And when you're talking about a 2-week timeline, which the client is giving as a maximum time limit for which he wants the guy onboarded, the first thing that you go in for is someone who's already between jobs, who's serving a notice period. Now, unfortunately, in India, the companies have a freedom to go ahead and extend the notice period that their employee have to give should they want to quit. Now, there are companies which are, putting 90-day notice periods and all of that. We don't have the situation in the US, for example, where 15 days is the standard. I mean, a guy can quit in 15 days and leave. So as long as the mandate for staffing companies and the criticality of the mandate is you want a guy to be joining in very quick time, competitive, being able to be competitive would demand that you look at people who are in between jobs. And when it comes to a situation where the supply chain is squeezed, as what we are seeing now, this problem gets accentuated a lot more. And everybody starts feeling the pinch of their candidate being lost to competition. So my humble submission to you, Anirudh, is I wish this can be done, but I don't see that happening.
This is quite practical. This is quite practical because, as Suresh rightly said, our client needs candidates to join, and that's where we have made a commitment that this candidate we submitted is going to join, and then our teams will do whatever it takes to really deliver that particular candidate. Obviously. Anyway, I have a next question coming. This is
Mr. Shah. Mr. Shah and Sureshji, I'm so sorry, but from ISF's perspective, can't we propose some sort of like a proposal to the government wherein one is like US, we formalize or standardize a notice for the industry body, and simultaneously some sort of clauses wherein just like there are certain exit clauses in anyone's appointment letter, maybe in an offer letter also there are certain sort of binding clauses that once they accept it, there should be some sort of legalities which are involved, and if that can be implemented and some sort of laws can be incorporated.
Anirudh, let me tell you this. I'll take this one. India, where we have a free labor, we don't have a binded labor. At the same time, even in the US or in India, anywhere else, if you see, there is a notice period. And I think most of our candidates also serve the notice period as well. Beyond this, we cannot really have a bonded labor in India. But anyway, this is a different topic in terms of what we can take up with the government. Right now, let us just stick to this addressing this particular issue. I have a next question for you, Shiv, because this you mentioned about this. There is a question from Priyanka Chopra. There are niche technologies where the candidates are already, the pool is very short. Shiv, you talked about a lot of internal checks, the strengthening of our own processes, training our teams to ask those relevant questions, take those kind of documents as an evidence in terms of what he's talking. No verbal commitment from the candidate, but everything is quite written. Now the question is, when we do that, it leaves us with very few candidates, and that is where the customer may tend to feel that this particular staffing vendor is not even able to submit candidates, and they start kind of judging you as a company. Shiv, any thoughts on that one?
Okay, Mehul. See, I do not agree to the fact which you mentioned that we would have very few candidates, because the candidate pool remains constant. Okay, so even if I look at the niche skill pool, whether I validate them more or I validate them less, the pool doesn't deplete. The answer lies how best you are able to find out the relevant people and validate them as per the customer requirements. Present the candidate to a customer where your hit ratio turns out to be the best. And that is what we do internally. And I think everybody should do that, because if you are not validating the candidate, then you are leaving yourself very, very vulnerable to the whims and the status of the candidate, which can change at any point in time. And those are the process implementation changes that we do. And we do not see any challenge. And I'm sure we will not see any challenge going forward. We are a maximum majority IT staffing organization. That's our specialty. We do extremely large number of onboards per month. And we battle this on a day in and day out. And I don't see this to be a challenge at all.
So I think I would extend your answer, Shiv, to Priyank, who asked this question. Priyank, I think what Shiv is necessarily saying is, pool may not be as small as we think in a large country like India. But having said that, we cannot compromise with our internal process, our internal filtering. And that's where probably more hard work needs to be done. And that's the message for all the recruiters and all the recruiting managers out here, that, regardless of how niche the candidate and the skills are, do not submit a shaky candidate to the client where you have to cut a sorry face later on. Essentially, what Shiv is saying is, work hard on strengthening and following the protocols internally, whatever guidelines you set, but do a thorough checking of a candidate that you submit. That's how you get a higher hit ratio, and obviously the joining ratio can be better, the dropout ratio can be lesser.
Yeah, absolutely, Mehul, because you see, today, obviously, everybody has a pressure to meet the SLAs of submission. It could be 2 hours, 4 hours for many customers. And then if you do not submit 3 profiles to one single job opportunity or 2, you may be dinged. So every organization then has to work out their internal processes so that the candidate which gets submitted after all these validations has the best chance of success. Otherwise, one may only see more submissions, but less conversion.
Very true.
And that obviously will ding the SLAs.
Very true. I think this is irrespective of a particular question from Priyank, but I think Shiv is making a very good point here, that more submissions we do without thorough checking, without validating the candidature and the will of the candidate. We can submit more resumes to initially wow the customer. Oh wow, this company is throwing a lot of resumes and they are very efficient. But soon they are going to realize that if the thorough checking was not done, there is going to be a no-show, and that is where all of us need to really take some measures. This is one thing that is a general advice to all in all, that we need to really do a thorough checking. It's okay to submit less candidates, but eventually we will be happy contenders with more joining and a less dropout. Makes sense. Next question. Next question, please. Anybody from the audience? Any other questions? I think I have another question. Can I see the question, Abhishek?
Sure. So in Q&A, we received a question from Mr. Hardik Bhatt. I will just read out the question. So Hardik Bhatt is one of our member company from IPS Group. My suggestion is that we can offer candidates at the last moment of his or her joining, so that we are the last one with whom we will negotiate and join our company or our client. At least we make sure that they don't shop around with our offer letter.
Good one. Anybody wants to take it from the panelists, please?
I guess, my friend, there will be one amongst us in this group who would have, made that offer, and through the help of some kind of processes and interaction with the candidate, get him to a situation where he would refuse that offer that you make at the last moment of his journey. So I would advise against it. I would say that get the offer to the candidate, convince him, and keep in touch with him, engage with him, with as many people as you can throw at him, and hope for the best.
Sure.
One point I would like to make for any candidates that for sure the candidate either shopping around that you may not be a good fit, or you have some time to really look into it. Like they have multiple offers, they're coming to you maybe the last minute, but instead of negotiating a salary, find out what else that motivates them, and find all the things. They may have something that the health insurance is a key priority, maybe the location is a key priority, maybe the distance from their home to the office is a priority, whatever the flexible work hours is a priority, work from home is a priority. So bring all these points. You may not be able to bring the candidate, put that in the database, put those keywords into it. So when you start searching the candidates, and you never know, a lot of times these candidates join the highest CTC company, but either they didn't like it, they didn't perform well, or they get fired, whatever situation. You have the candidates there, and then when the candidates, after 6 months, you're looking for something similar, reach out to the candidates. You never know, because over time you kind of build a relationship, and then you have the familiarity, and I think the database of candidate information would be extremely helpful. If not that time, but in the long run, you have a powerful list of candidates, prospective candidates, that I think you may increase your odds of bringing candidates onboarding.
One more point, if I may add, Mehul, on this. How do you time what is the last moment? That's an extremely difficult situation, right? Because the candidate might have notice period. How do you know what is the last moment? When you want to offer him, he may not be available. He may have already negotiated. So obviously, as Suresh said, I second this point, that you have to take the process through and try your best to ensure that you hold on to the candidate rather than timing for the last moment. Then it becomes like a share market, right? I mean, it's this way or that way, and you do not have a control on the outcome. What we need to do is we need to have a control on the outcome. That is the solution that we are all trying to find out. that every action that we are taking, are we sure about the outcome?
Sure.
So Mehul, we have one more last question as we are running out of time. So I will just read it out for all of you. What if candidate is satisfied? This is from Priyanshu Singh. The question is, what if candidate is satisfied with our offer and not disclosing that he is already holding an offer? However, his priority requirement, which is personal health insurance, that too provided from us, and then candidate is accepting other contractual position without any reason. How could I identify such a fishy candidate?
Like you said, it is very difficult to really understand, what exactly, how to call it. And then that's where I think I would go back to Shiv's point in terms of internal processes, how we can strengthen and qualify. And he said, very rightly, he said, there should not be just a verbal commitment. There should be his previous offers or the resignation or the relieving date and so on and so forth. That's where, Shiv, you want to talk more about this?
Yeah, see, I touched on this beforehand. It's a process, right? You have to build up internal people, qualified team who are qualified to understand from the responses of the candidate whether he is giving a different feedback than what is the truth or what is his intention. It doesn't happen over one day. It takes time. There is a questionnaire set which happens. It becomes an evaluation process. There are questions which are psychometric in nature. There are questions which try to analyze the output that the resource is giving. So it gets built over time. Even then, nobody gets perfect 100%, but yes, you can eliminate and you can understand that, okay, this guy may be bluffing. But in today's scenario, I will give you an example which happened to us 1 week before. One of the largest BFSI clients of our company, this guy was supposed to onboard a 30 lakh salary. The guy was supposed to onboard after 20 days of notice serving in his organization. 15 minutes before the joining, he says, I have an offer for 35 lakhs. Either you give it to me or I'm not joining. 15 minutes before joining, okay? Luckily, we had some margin available and we could onboard the guy. But this is a regularity. And we were in touch with that guy continuously over a period of 20 days. What had happened was our account manager had developed a very good personal equation and he could talk to him personally at that point in time. Don't do this. If I match your salary, join me. So there was a lot of personal equation which got actioned into making that candidate join. This is day in and day out affair. And that is why we build the expertise. We get the experiences. We understand what is gone through, what happened, and then it makes us better to deal with the next candidate. So there is no magic formula. It gets built over time.
Sure.
I believe this has been one of the most interactive and sought after subject which we have seen from members, and the kind of participation which we have from our members, the kind of questions which has come, it is completely very much imperative that people are looking at the subject. And I really thanks to my juries and panelists for the subjects they have taken. I address majority of the questions, the best of the capabilities, and I'm sure these inputs and these insights will definitely be of a lot of help to our members and the participants which we have. I thank once again to all of you, and we look forward to our further future webinars again. Thank you, Mehul.
So, hold on. Before we summarize, guys, I want to leave everybody, with a food for thought. We learned a lot of things from our panelists, obviously, what they are doing. And my request to all three panelists is, some of us may approach you to get trained by you. Please give us a 1 week, 2 week of training in your organizations when we approach you, because everybody wants to learn how things are done better. But I want to leave everybody with a food of thought. We talked about a lot of training your teams, internal processes, what kind of skills where we are seeing more of the no-shows, eliminate the verbal communications. We talked about the technology in terms of platforms and using some of the tools. And obviously, as Shiv said, the stakes are very high. So we got to do a lot of these things, in terms of making ourselves better. But here is what I want to leave you all with, some food for thought. if we can do this better. Before we go there, Anirudh's point is also very valid. Not with the government, obviously, we can take it up. It's far-fetched. However, as responsible citizens of staffing industry, we can probably control it internally as well by not just succumbing to some of the, if it is feasible with our customers, not just to, kind of encourage these kind of candidates, to Anirudh's point, but something that, apart from these things, I don't know how far it is executable. We can execute, but I want to leave you all with some food for thought. Have you thought about some sort of models that you can sell to the customers? I understand we are into T&M. I understand we are into staffing, where we have a customer, a candidate, a bill rate, and a pay rate. But at the same time, how about we branding our organizations a little better? Because for a candidate, on his mind, it is not only the salary. Understand, if you take top 4 reasons or top 5 reasons, it's not only the salary to the most of, especially to the Gen Zs of the world, right? So if we can brand our companies a little better, that look, they may be joining the end customer for 6 months or 9 months, but they are joining our organization for a longer period as a full-time employees. Many of us bring these candidates, as our full-time employees only. It's an irony that our candidates leave after 9 months of project, but we bring them on as a full-time employee. Let us extend that a little bit more. And if we can just let them know that after these 9 months, we are going to redeploy you to a client B and a client C and a client D, where you are going to get multiple exposures and different experiences. That could be one of the things that we can probably sell, bringing them as a FTE and telling them, branding ourselves a little better, saying that this is not a 9-month or a 6-month or a 12-month assignment for you. You are joining us for a longer period of time. And obviously, these being digital skills in particular, we can probably, redeploy them faster, because right now the supply-demand gap is, and all of us have a lot of requirements as well, right? Another thing which I want to also leave you all with a food for thought is, one of the reasons that the candidates don't take up your jobs is, they are the youngsters today in IT world, they are looking at career progression. Has anybody thought and gone to a candidate saying that, look, you are a Java programmer right now. In the next 3 to 5 years, work with us. We will do some upskilling, either by providing you some training or by putting you on some of the challenging projects once this particular project is over, and we will make you from a Java programmer to a Java architect in 5 years. Think about it. I don't know how easy it is to execute, but these are some of the thoughts which are wild thoughts that are just coming to my mind, where we can tell a candidate that it's a career progression. Once you join on this project, you are not just going to be done with this project as a Java programmer, but your next project could be the next level and the next level, and you can reach all the way to a Java architect in a 4 or 5 years. And that is the responsibility we take as a staffing company. We take the responsibility of upskilling your talent. And the third thing, which I want to leave you again with a food for thought is, I have come across some of the AI tools where it just, when the database is so strong, it tells you the basic interest level of the candidate in the priority format, which means if he wants more money, it will be right there on the first priority. And if he wants a career progression, it would be the second priority. If it's a work from home, if it's a third, work from home could be the first priority, or a flexibility could be the first priority. These are the AI-based tools that will throw you those candidates where their priorities are right in front of you. And somebody asked the question, how do we identify those kind of candidates who are fishy candidates? For lack of better word, I would say. Maybe these AI tools can help you figure out what kind of questions you need to ask and what kind of job that you are offering him. That job that you are offering is his priority number 4, whereas his priority number 1 is not yet addressed. And maybe that could be a potential no-show for you. So there are some tools available, where it definitely calls for some investment, but it will straight away tell you that this candidate has this as a number 1 priority. The question for you as a recruiter would be, did we address this particular problem? So these are some of the radical, some of the disruptive ideas that we can have. We sell ourselves better, tell them that you are our full-time employee for not for 9 months, 12 months, but for 3 years and 5 years. Second is, I am taking responsibility of your career progression. Of course, it needs a model to support you. Otherwise, it just becomes a selling point, and you are going to fall flat if you sell something wrong. And the third one is those intelligent tools that will give you the priorities of the candidate as a number 1, number 2, and number 3. These are some of the ways where we can probably think of doing it. The companies, I'm sure there are some CEOs, there are some founders also there on this call. There are some senior management of various companies also on this call. Think about this, if we can do something and we can drive our organizations to something like that, apart from all the valid points in a day-to-day life mentioned by Suresh and Shiv and Sameer, I think this can probably, I hope this session really was helpful. Like I said in the beginning, all of us, in fact, yesterday were talking and we were always saying that there is no straight cut answer to this. Like Suresh said, there is no magic wand. I wish we had a magic wand, but I think this kind of a brainstorming, I hope it helped you all in your day-to-day job. Go back. There is a lot of hard work cut out for us. Like I said, everything is going up. Our requirements are going up. Our profitability is going up. Our bottom line is going up. At the same time, our no-shows are also going up. And let's try to control that as much as we can using today's discussion and brainstorming. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, the panelists. Thank you very much, the ISF Secretariat and the team. I know you have worked very hard to put this webinar together. Abhishek, Saurabh, Suchita is not there. She is right now dealing with some of the proposals for the ministry, the labor ministry. But we could not cover all the questions. I'm sure there could be many other questions. All the panelists are very, very open to take your questions. You can send it to ISF. If it is for a particular panelist, they will get you the response from Suresh, Shiv, or Sameer. Or if you can reach out to them directly as well, absolutely no problem. Everybody is very flexible. End of the day, we all want to help. And we all want to make this industry a better place and make our jobs reasonably easier in today's tough market. Happy recruiting, guys. Happy selling and happy staffing. All the very best to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mehul. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.